Well, so what do you understand about yourself? Which will it be, either as you now have it, or taking care to do something?
Counsel in common, Socrates, yet I am reflecting during your talking and consent, for the ones managing the state's affairs seem to me to be, except for a few, uneducated.
So really, what is this?
If they ever were educated, it would be necessary for one attempting to compete with them to be learning and practicing like an athlete. But now, since they have gone into politics as amateurs, what need is there to practice and take the trouble of learning? For I know well that by nature I shall quite completely surpass them.
Alas, best one, what this is you have said! How unworthy of your looks and of your other advantages!
What do you really mean, and why do you say this, Socrates?
I am irritated on your behalf and for my love,
At what?
at your expecting the competition to be against the people here.
But against whom will it be?
Is this worthy also to be asked by a man thinking himself to be great?
What do you mean? Is not my contest against these?
But if you were intending to pilot a trireme and fighting at sea, would it be sufficient for you to be best of the shipmates at piloting? Or thinking these things to be necessary qualifications, would you regard the ones you fight against, but not as now the ones you fight with? Doubtless you must excel such, so that they would not be worthy to fight against you, but being looked down upon to be fighting with you against the enemies, if you really mean to show off some beautiful action also worthy of yourself and the state.
But I do mean to.
Then is it quite worthy of you to be pleased if you are better than the soldiers, but do not look at the ones leading the rivals, if ever you should become better than those, considering and practicing against those?
But of whom are you speaking, Socrates?
Don't you know each time our state makes war on Lacedaemonians and the great king?
You speak the truth.
Then if you have in mind to be leader of the state, would you believe correctly the contest for you to be leading is against the kings of Lacedaemonia and Persia?
You may be speaking the truth.
No, joyful one, but you must look to the quail striker Medius, and such others who try to manage the state's affairs, still slavish, as the women would say, having three parts in the soul beneath rudeness, and not having looked after it at all. But still, foreign speaking, they have come flattering the state, but not ruling. To these you must look, as I say, to really neglect looking at yourself, and not learn what has to be learned. For one intending to compete in such a contest, nor practice what needs practicing, and all preparation prepared, thus to enter upon affairs of the state.
But, Socrates, you seem to me to speak the truth, yet I think the Lacedaemonian generals and the Persian king are no different than the others.
But, best one, consider this thought which you have.
About what?
First, do you think you would take more care of yourself, being afraid and thinking they are terrible, or if you are not?
Clearly, if I should think they are terrible.
So do you think you will be harmed taking care of yourself?
Not at all. Rather, I shall derive great benefit.
Then in this sense your thought is bad.
You speak the truth.
Then second, that it is also false, from the likely consideration.
How so?
Which are likely to be better by nature, those in noble races or not noble?
Clearly in the noble.
Then the well-born, if they are also well brought up, thus become perfected in virtue.
By necessity.
Let us really consider, by comparing ours with theirs, first whether the Lacedaemonian and Persian kings seem to be of inferior birth. Do we not know that the former are descendants of Heracles, and the latter of Achaemenes? And the race of Heracles and Achaemenes goes back to Perseus, son of Zeus.
For mine does too, Socrates, to Eurysakes, and that of Eurysakes to Zeus.
For mine does too, noble Alcibiades, to Daedalus, and Daedalus to Hephaestus, son of Zeus. But the ones ruling these from themselves are kings, from kings reaching back to Zeus, either of Argos and Lacedaemonia, or of Persia always, and often of Asia too, as also now. But we ourselves are private persons, and our fathers. And also one should need to show the progenitors and Salamis, the country of Eurysakes, or Aegina, of the still earlier Aeacus, and Artaxerxes, son of Xerxes. How much laughter do you think it should deserve? But look how inferior we are to the men in pride of birth and in other upbringing. Or have you not perceived how great are the advantages of the Lacedaemonian kings, whose wives are guarded at public expense by the magistrates, so that it is not possible for the king to be born from anyone else than from Heracles? And the Persian is so far beyond that no one has any suspicion that a king could have been born from anyone other than from his own. Because of this, the king's wife is not guarded by anything other than by fear. And when the oldest child is born, as the ruler, first all the subjects celebrate in the palace of the king who should rule. Then, for the rest of time on that day, all of Asia makes offerings and celebrates the king's birthday. But at our birth, as the comic poet says, even the neighbors hardly notice anything, Alcibiades. After this the child is brought up, not by a woman nurse of little worth, but by the eunuchs who seem to be best around the palace. Others are assigned by them to take care of the newborn, and so that he will be made most beautiful, reshaping and setting upright the stance of the child. And doing these things they are held in great honor. And when the children become 7 years old, they are schooled on the horses and on the lessons of these, and begin to go on the hunt. And becoming twice 7 years, those whom they name royal tutors take over the children. And 4 Persians who seem best in maturity are selected, the wisest and the most just and the most discreet and the most courageous. One teaches Magian lore of Zoroaster, son of Horomazus, and this is service of the gods. And he also teaches the royal things, and the most just to speak the truth through all his life, and the most discreet not to be ruled by even one of the pleasures, so as to be accustomed to be free and really a king, ruling first what is in himself, but not being enslaved, and the most courageous, preparing him to be fearless and secure, how when one is afraid he is really a slave. But for you, Alcibiades, the tutor appointed by Pericles was the one of the household most useless by age, Zopyrus, the Thracian. And I could describe for you the other upbringing and education of your competitors, if it were not much work. And besides, these things are enough to make it clear, and the others follow as much as these. But of your birth, Alcibiades, and upbringing and education, or those of any other Athenian, so to speak, nobody cares, unless it chances to be some lover of yours. But again, if you should intend to look into wealth and luxury and robes with flowing trains, and anointments of myrrh and crowds of servants following, and the other delicacies of the Persians, you would be ashamed at yourself, perceiving how much you have been left behind by them. And if again you intended to look into the discretion and orderliness and dexterity and agility and magnanimity and discipline and courage and patience and industry and love of winning and ambition of the Lacedaemonians, you would believe yourself a child in all these things. And if again you are devoted to wealth and think to be something in that, and let this not be unsaid by us, if you are to perceive where you are. For in this, if you intend to see the wealth of the Lacedaemonians, you should know that much here is left behind there. For they have so much land of their own and Messenian, none of ours here could compete in extent nor goodness. Nor again in acquiring captive slaves of the others, and the serfs, nor of horses, nor how many other cattle graze in Messina. But let us say good-bye to all these things, and there is not as much gold and silver in all Greece as in private in Lacedaemonia. For during many generations it has been going to them from all of Greece, and often also from the foreigners. And it goes out to no one, but just as in the story of Aesop, where the fox said to the lion, also of the usage in Lacedaemonia it is clear the tracks are directed going in there, but never has anyone seen them coming out. So that one ought to know well that both in gold and in silver, the ones there are the wealthiest of the Greeks, and their wealthiest is the king. For the greatest and largest of such receipts are the king's, and besides there is no small royal tribute, which the Lacedaemonians pay to the king. And this of the Lacedaemonians, as compared to Greeks, is great wealth, but as compared to the Persians and their king, it is nothing. Since once I heard from a trustworthy man who had gone up to the palace, who said he went along a very large and good estate for nearly a day's journey, which the inhabitants call the girdle of the king's wife. And there is another which again is called the Vale, and many other beautiful and good regions reserved for the adornment of the wife, and each region is named after each of the adornments. So that I think, if someone should say to the king's mother and wife of Xerxes, Amestris, that the son of Deinomacha, whose adornment is perhaps worth 50 minae, if that much, has it in mind to challenge your son, and the son whose land at Erchii is not even 300 acres, she would wonder what this Alcibiades has in mind, to be trusting to contend with Artaxerxes. And I think she would say that it is not possible the man attempting this could be trusting to anything else except to taking care and wisdom, for these are the only things worthy of a word among Greeks. Since if she should learn that this Alcibiades who now attempts this is first not yet even 20 years old, next completely uneducated, and further, when his lover is telling him that it is useful first learning and taking care of himself, and practicing thus to be contending with the king, he is not willing, but says he is satisfied also as he is. I think she would be surprised, and ask, so on what is the boy to rely? So if we should say that on beauty and greatness, and birth and wealth and qualities of soul, she would believe us Alcibiades to be mad, in looking at all such things in comparison to them. And I think even Lampedo, the daughter of Leotychides, and wife of Archidamus, and mother of Agus, who all have been kings, would wonder also the same way in looking at their advantages in comparison, if you have in mind to contend with her son, being so badly led. Yet does it not seem to be shameful if the wives of the enemies should understand better about ourselves what is really useful in taking them on, than we ourselves understand about ourselves? But, blessed one, be convinced by me, and the inscription at Delphi, know yourself, that these are the competitors, but not the ones you think. Nor by any other single thing should we overcome them, unless it be by taking care and by art. If you are left behind in these, you will also be left behind in becoming notable among Greeks and foreigners, whom you seem to me to love more than anyone else ever loved anything.
So then what taking care of is useful to do, Socrates? Can you prescribe? For more than all what you have said is likely true.
Yes, but counsel in common, as to the way by which we should become better. For I do not speak only about your need so to be educated, and not about mine. For it is not that I differ from you, except in one thing.
In what?
The trustee who is mine is better and wiser than Pericles, who is yours.
Who is he, Socrates?
God, Alcibiades, who before today has not allowed me to converse with you. And trusting in it, I say that your distinction will be through no one other than through me.
You are playing, Socrates.
Perhaps, yet I speak the truth that we must take care, as much as all people, we too also very much.
That I should. You are not lying.
Nor in that I should.
So what then should we do?
There must be no falling off, nor weakening, companion.
These are really fitting, Socrates.
None, but it must be considered in common. And tell me, for we say that we really want to be best, or do we not?
Yes.
Best at what?
Clearly, that in which the men are good.
Who are good in what?
Clearly, that is the management of business.
What kind? Then is it equestrian business?
Of course not.
For we would be beside the horsemen.
Yes.
But do you mean nautical business?
No.
For we would be beside the sailors.
Yes.
But what kind? Who manages what?
What is the beautiful and good of Athenians?
But do you mean the beautiful and good are the sensible or the foolish?
The sensible.
Then each is good in this in which he is sensible,
Yes.
and bad in what he is foolish.
For how could he not be?
So then is the leather cutter sensible in making sandals?
Certainly.
Then is he good in that?
Good.
But what? In the making of clothes is not the leather cutter foolish?
Yes.
Then is he bad in this?
Yes.
Then in this argument the same one is bad and good.
It appears so.
Or then do you mean the good men are also bad?
Of course not.
But whatever do you mean by the good?
I mean the ones able to rule in the state.
Certainly not over horses.
Of course not.
But over people?
Yes.
Then when sick?
No.
But when sailing?
I say no.
But when harvesting?
No.
But when doing nothing or when doing something?
I mean doing.
What? Try and make it clear to me.
Then when they are meeting together with themselves and using each other, just as we live in the state.
Then do you mean ruling over people who are using people?
Yes.
Then over commanders who use rowers?
Of course not.
For this the pilot is best.
Yes.
But do you mean ruling over flute-playing people who lead the people singing and use dancers?
Of course not.
For again, is this chorus teaching?
Certainly.
But whatever do you mean by being able to rule over people who are using people?
I mean those sharing in the state and meeting together with each other to rule over these in the state.
So what then is this art? Just as if I should ask you again the things I did just now. What art makes one know how to rule over fellow sailors?
Piloting.
And over fellow singers, as I just now said, what knowledge makes one rule over them?
That which you just said, chorus teaching.
But what? What do you call the knowledge of fellow citizens?
Good counsel, I call it, Socrates.
But what? Does the pilot's seem to be lack of counsel?
Of course not.
But is it good counsel?
It seems so to me in the saving of sailors.
You speak well, but what? In what is the good counsel of which you are speaking?
In the better managing and maintaining of the state.
And to better manage and maintain it, what is present or absent? For example, if you should ask me, to better manage a body and maintain it, what is present or absent? I would say that health is present and disease absent. Don't you think so too?
Yes.
And if again you should ask me, and what is present when eyes are better? Similarly, I would say that sight is present and blindness absent. And also with ears, deafness is absent, and inborn hearing is best, and being treated becomes better.
Correct.
But what then? What is present and absent when a state is best, and better treated and managed?
It seems to me, Socrates, when there is friendship among themselves and toward each other, and hating and rebellion are absent.
So then by friendship do you mean oneness or discord?
Oneness.
So through what art are the states in oneness about numbers?
Through arithmetic.
And what of the individuals? Is it through the same?
Yes.
Then also is each the same with himself?
Yes.
And through what art is each one himself with himself, about a span and a cubit, which is longer? Is it through measurement?
What then?
Then also the individuals with each other and the state.
Yes.
But what about weight? Is it not similar?
I say so.
And what oneness do you mean? What is it, and about what? And what art provides it? And then is it the same in a state and individually, with and toward oneself and toward another?
Most likely.
So what is it? You should not tire in answering, but be eager to say.
I think I mean friendship and oneness, as when a father and mother are one in loving a son, and brother with brother, and wife with husband.
So do you think, Alcibiades, a husband is able to be one with a wife concerning wool spinning, not being knowledgeable next to her being knowledgeable?
Of course not.
Nor has he any need, for this is a woman's accomplishment.
Yes.
But what? Is a woman able to be one with a man concerning politics, not having learned it?
Of course not.
For perhaps again you would say this is a man.
I would.
Then there are women's and men's accomplishments according to your argument.
And how could there not be?
Then in these there is no oneness between women and men.
No.
Then no friendship, if friendship is oneness.
It appears not.
Then the women who are doing their own business are not loved by the men,
It seems not.
nor then the men by the women in doing theirs.
No.
Nor then in the same way are the states well managed when they each are doing their own business.
I think so, Socrates.
How do you mean it, with friendship not present, which we say is there to manage well the states, and otherwise they are not?
But it seems to me also, according to this, friendship arises among them, because they each do their own business.
It just was not, but now again how do you mean it? With oneness not arising, does friendship arise? Or can oneness arise which some have known about, and others have not?
Impossible.
And are they doing justice or injustice, when they each are doing their own business?
Justice, for how could they not be?
So when the citizens are doing the just in the state, does not friendship arise toward each other?
Again, it seems to me to be necessary, Socrates.
So whatever do you mean by the friendship or oneness about which we need to be wise and well advised, in order that we may be good men? For I am not able to learn either what or in whom it is. For sometimes it appears to be in them, but other times not, from your argument.